Hi, folks. So these are strange times. I've heard this said a few times today and it really feels appropriate. So I'm going to take a few minutes here just to share some thoughts on dealing with the business impact of this ongoing situation. So this might be useful for you, particularly if you've been busy firefighting and if you haven't had a chance to think about the big picture. So just to be clear on priorities, personal and family health are always going to come first and business health second. But I'm not really qualified or experienced to talk about the first. So I'm just going to talk about business. The only thing I'll say about that is a lot of people out there are sick and lonely and scared. So be understanding and sympathetic. But also for your business, so deal with this in relation to my business and my clients, and like for small consulting firms like yours and mine, this could be a very dangerous situation. So I've spent several hours talking with quite a few people today and yesterday, and listening and reading some of the leaders in our industries. So that's where my thoughts are based on. And so just to put things in perspective, there's a lot of uncertainty and fear and panic out there, and COVID-19 is very serious. But what I will say is keep in mind the old saying, this too shall pass. So at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, this will end. It's probably going to end in a series of different stages rather than a clean ending. And there's going to be business and financial implications continue on afterwards. But at some point it will end. So this too shall pass. That's kind of my mantra for right now. So if I repeat that a few times, just bear with me. So some business realities we're facing. Revenue is going to be down across the board, almost every sector. So personally, I had thousands of euros worth of in-person training cancelled or postponed. I'm expecting an impact in the other parts of the business as the knock-on effect happens. Many businesses are going to be seeing drops of 20-30% in revenue. There's going to be layoffs, early retirements, and unfortunately some businesses just won't survive it. Things are going to be very rough in sports and events, travel, hospitality, tourism, particularly while the social distancing recommendations stay in place. So right now that looks like the next 2 to 4 weeks, but it's continuously being adjusted. So it could go on for several months. So if you serve those sectors, you need to think carefully about it and take some action. So on the other hand, there are some sectors like medical, remote working and online events, and they're going to survive and thrive. So that's kind of the external situation. We're looking at a mini recession. Consumer spending will be down. Businesses that don't have enough financial resources to get through, they're going to file for bankruptcy and lay off people. So that's the reality. We just need to be prepared for it and try and deal with it as positively as possible. So what I've been thinking about is how you and I in consulting and professional services can do things. First of all, we need to minimize the impact on our own business. So David Baker said recently you need to put on your own oxygen mask first when he was talking about this. So that's the first thing we need to do. The second thing is we need to help our clients as best we can. I'm just thinking and talking about that part first, about helping our clients. So in professional services, we have the concept of fiduciary responsibility, acting in our client's best interest and being that trusted advisor and arm around the shoulder. And right now, our clients are unsure, they're fearing the worst. Some are already hurting. So I think that arm around the shoulder is more important right now than it ever was. So as a practical thing, I spent most of the day today on the phone calling around my clients, and I suggest you do the same on Monday if you haven't already. So a phone call is worth 100 emails right now. Having a real-time conversation with a person where you get the impact of tone of voice and emotions. Talk to them about some options to minimize the negative impact on them. Show that you care, that you're on their side. Maybe schedule a strategy call with their executive team or whoever it is that you work with. Then in practical terms, how you can actually help them, it's going to depend on their industry and the business model. But there are some general issues across the board. For example, a lot of people have large teams all remote working for the first time right now. In-person events are moving online. People are trying to shift training online. So there's a lot of problems being repeated across different industries. But I think ultimately the most important thing to do is to show them that you care. Then on the other side of the equation is minimizing the impact on our own business. So putting on our own oxygen mask first. So cash flow is the crucial thing here. So some thoughts on cash flow. First obvious thing is examine your expenses, particularly the recurring expenses, and pause or cancel non-essentials. If you have a business loan, call your bank about getting a break in payments. They understand and they want to help, and they would rather take a break on payments rather than see you go out of business. So next thing is, if you have any unsent invoices, get them out right now. If you can, include an electronic or online payment to make it easier to get paid faster. You need to get that payment in before anything negative happens. So next thing is reduce receivables days. So I rather discount 10% for upfront payment rather than waiting 30 or 60 days for 100%. So it's going to depend on your margins, business model. But if you can, reduce the number of days it's going to take to get paid. On the flip side, can you increase your payable days? So ask your supplier for longer payment periods. So they mightn't allow it, but maybe see if they will, or maybe they'll even offer a discount for immediate payment. So that could have that positive effect. And there will be pressure on you to cut prices, and you're going to have to make a decision based on cash flow, profitability, and also, how your relationship with the client. But remember to be kind and understanding if you're dealing with people who are going through a rough time. And the big one is you need to work on new sales to balance out those projects that are inevitably going to be cancelled. So one issue here is that a lot of firms in professional services are reliant on networking events for lead generation. So it was actually the second most common or second most popular way of driving new business after referrals. So you're going to have to think about how to replace it. Another issue is positioning. So when I'm thinking about business positioning, one of the questions that I ask is, what is their painful, urgent problem that you solve? And right now, the answer to that question might be quite a bit different to what it would be normally. So right now, it might be more about remote work and business development, lead generation, than the challenges that you're normally helping with. So I think that you should accept some non-ideal work. So, and I'm a massive fan of specialization, but even our specialization grandmaster, Philip Morgan, acknowledges that we should accept work outside of our niche if that's what it takes to keep the lights on. So stay in the game. You should ask for referrals, but maybe you're not right this minute. Maybe sometime next week when things settle down a bit, it'll be the right time to start asking something like, is there anyone else, who I can help, or do you know anybody else facing similar problems? Things like that. And you might need to consider some outbound sales strategies. And that's a whole topic for another day. The other kind of perspective on this is, particularly if you've got a bit of cash in the bank, if you suddenly have more free time due to cancellations, then you can use it positively. So I'm thinking of the Eisenhower matrix, the one that has important to urgent. So quite often the important, not urgent quadrant is the one of all the projects you've been putting off, because you never have time for them. So business development activities, particularly content marketing. You might have a backlog of other stuff like brand guidelines, or maybe things like creating productized services, or maybe even writing a book. So it's probably a good time, if you've got something like an online course that you want to make, maybe now's a good time for that in particular. I think there's also some longer term changes that we should think about, particularly the impact on work patterns, because millions of people are going to discover that the 2-hour commutes that they're doing are unnecessary. And their bosses are going to find out that people are actually more productive when you're not being disturbed all the time. What impact is that going to have, for example, on office real estate? Okay, look, that's enough for me for now. Just remember to be kind. It's not business as usual out there. Bear that in mind when you're talking to people. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, and most importantly, stay calm out there.